So hey everyone, welcome to the GVSU College Dems / Young Dems of Greater Grand Rapids Mixer. Thank you so much for coming, I really appreciate it. Really? Oh, there we go. I really appreciate it. I'm running for State House in the 77th District, that's Wyoming and Byron Center. And although I know you may not live in my district, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the work that we're doing there, what I'm running on, and how you might be able to help elect someone that's like you to the State House. Because as I say, pretty much, it's like I tend to campaign across.
Try and like tilt it up more towards you, just have it. Yeah, that'll
like
be good.
Yeah. So I tend to campaign across the state for a lot of stuff. But what I like to share with folks is, although I may not represent you geographically, I'll represent you ideologically in Lansing, right? Because the way that a state house works is you pass laws for the state of Michigan, not for your geographical district. And so that's one of the things that's frustrated me a little bit, because I've talked to folks and they've been like, oh, well, I don't think I live in your district. And it's like, well, that's great. You know, do you want to do work in a safe Democratic district that is for sure going to go for a Democrat? Or, and by the way, where there's no primary either, or do you want to do work in a district that can potentially flip and take our state house back in 2018? I'm not you. You can kind of make your own decision, but for me, I would choose to work in a district where my efforts made a difference, made an impact in terms of state laws that affect me as an individual. Right, so a little bit about myself. I grew up in the Lansing area, actually. I went to Michigan State University. Please don't hate me. I have issues with the administration myself. Fought them for years. So I graduated with a master's degree in criminal justice, also a bachelor's degree in the same. The reason why I went into criminal justice is because I wanted to change the system for the better. Because when I first started taking classes in criminal justice, I learned just how broken our system really was. And there's no other way to describe our criminal justice system aside from broken. Whether it be due to mass incarceration, whether it be due to police violence, which can be attributed to a lot of factors, including a lack of training, right? And a lack of police accountability. And so, I won't get into the issues just yet. This is all about meat and potatoes about me, but there's, I guess, pay attention, stay tuned, we'll get to that. So when I moved over to the Grand Rapids area, I moved into a place called Wyoming. And I did that because it was the most affordable place to live. Right? I looked around the Grand Rapids community and I said, okay, $800 a month, too expensive. $1,200 a month, way too expensive. Okay, we got like $750 around that range. All right, I can afford that. That's something that I can do. So I ended up in Wyoming, and then I looked around at my neighbors, and they were Hispanic and African American and LGBT, with a lot of women. There were Muslims and a large Catholic population as well. And overall, I was looking around and I was like, how is this a Republican district? And then I looked at the current representative in place, and his name is Tommy Brand, and he owns Brand Steakhouse. So, you know, if you really want a cheap sizzler, I guess go there, but I'm just kidding. He's a very nice man, but the problem is his policies are not very nice. He's not for any minimum wage, right? I'm for a $15 minimum wage tied to inflation, but he doesn't even believe that the state should be involved in setting a minimum wage. Because, as we all know, corporations have our best interests at heart and will pay us what we're due, right? I mean, I personally know that when Walmart writes my check or signs it, they have my interests at heart. So I don't really believe that. So, and he's also against any form of government health care whatsoever. So no Medicare, no Medicaid, because he believes the role of government should really be non-existent. You should get out of the way of business, right? And so that's something that like Ayn Rand put forward. Raise your hand if you've heard of Ayn Rand. Fair? Okay, we got this out of the room. We'll get you. So Ayn Rand was pretty much the Antichrist. She is beloved by the conservative, especially Christian right, which amazes me continuously to this day. But she believed that, pretty much dismantle government, it shouldn't exist. Poor folks are meant to be poor, rich folks are meant to be rich, and social mobility is a joke that shouldn't be encouraged, right? So she is pretty terrible. Like, she's overtly anti-Christian even, which is another reason why I'm like, why is the Christian right supporting her? But I digress. So he hands out copies of Atlas Shrugged, which you might have heard of that book, which was written by Ayn Rand, like the Bible, right? If you are his constituent and you visit him in Lansing, make sure to pick up a copy. I think that he gives them away for free still. So it's a far-right agenda that's much different from the district that he serves. And it upsets me when I go to the Democratic Party and they say, your district, it's unwinnable. It's great that you're doing this work. Kudos. Maybe three elections from now, maybe a few decades from now, it'll flip. But we're not going to invest in this kind of a race because it's just not winnable. And what I always want to tell them is, have you ever been there? Have you ever experienced my community? Have you ever walked in my community? And their answer is uniformly no, including, by the way, from those political experts that prognosticate, because they're so good at it, all the time on why we should be investing in those blue districts that are blue to get them bluer. And for the life of me, God bless them, they clearly got a degree in this stuff, and not to insult anyone that's getting a degree in political science or anything like that. But, yeah, sorry. But it seems to me that some of these folks that get those degrees think that they're done. They think that if I have my degree in political science or in comparative political systems at Michigan State University, James Madison College, I hated them too, you probably know them. But if you get those degrees, then I know everything, right? So I don't need to walk a district. I don't need to know who lives there. I'm a political expert. I looked at the numbers, and the numbers have told me that this is an unwinnable seat. So I think now I'll transition a little bit into what I'm running on, right? Because I think that's the most important issue that you want to hear from a politician is what they're trying to do for you. And so something that I've campaigned on since day one in this race has been Medicare for all. Whether it be at the state level or at the federal level, we absolutely have to get profit out of our healthcare system entirely. Not only is it more affordable, not only do more people get care, not only is the care better, but no one has to declare bankruptcy because of medical debt. No one has to think, should I go into the hospital now, or should I wait until it gets worse because I can't afford it? Right? I think it's inhuman. Really? I think it's inhuman that we have a healthcare system in this country that's profit-driven, that puts, honestly, profit before people. And so you've heard this from Democratic candidates all across the state, and I'm very grateful that now, to be a Democrat, you have to support Medicare for all. So I love that, right? But I'm trying to campaign to bring that style of healthcare to Michigan. Be that in supporting congressional candidates who are fighting for the same thing at the federal level, or right here in the state of Michigan, because it's doable. And a lot of folks will tell you, well, how are you going to pay for that? Right? How are you going to pay for that? That's expensive. How are you going to pay for that? But then you have to ask yourself, where are my tax dollars going now? Are they going for tax cuts to big corporations? Are they going to tax cuts to the wealthy? Are they going to tax breaks for a new Walmart or for, was it Amazon that wanted to come in? Yeah. Where are your tax dollars going? And where can they go instead? And that's a question that I don't really hear a lot from people when the Medicare for All question is proposed. So I believe that we have the money here in the state of Michigan. I believe that if there needed to be a tax increase, it would be marginal and it would be spread across the board so that you would end up paying less at the end of the day than you pay now. Not just less, but much less, right? Because if we orient our healthcare system towards getting people healthy instead of keeping people sick for profit, what do you know? The system tends to work because the rest of the industrialized world has it, including much of the developed world or developing world. So you have to ask yourself, why are we the only one that doesn't have it? Another one is a $15 minimum wage tied to inflation with a dollar-for-dollar tax break for small businesses. I know that sounds really dry and boring, but basically you need a raise. No matter what job you have, whether it's a McDonald's worker, whether it's a dishwasher in the cafeteria like what I did when I was at Michigan State University, no matter what you do, you need a raise. Because you haven't gotten a raise, a real raise, in quite a long time. If the minimum wage had been tied to inflation when it was first a thing, it would be around $21 to $25 an hour right now. So you can't tell me that we don't need a raise. And for the folks out there that say, well, what about the small businesses? Great. let's do a tax break for small business, because small businesses don't have lobbyists in Lansing. Small businesses can't afford to bribe politicians the way those big businesses can. So how about this? A tax break for them. Because Republicans like tax breaks too. We all like tax breaks. So what about a tax break for small businesses? Dollar for dollar. For every dollar more that they pay in payroll, they get a tax cut. So let's do a little bit of that. On to, I think, the elephant in the room, college affordability. How many in here have college debt? Uniform, yeah, there we go, right? So I think my last student loan bill is over $100,000 because I got a master's degree, right? I was foolish enough to do that. Sorry, if anyone's in here getting a master's degree, my apologies for getting a master's degree. But so the point is, college is too damn expensive, and we all know it. You live it, right? You're college students, or you're recent college graduates. You know that college is too expensive. And you know that our current system is built really on profit. That if you attend GVSU or you attend Michigan State University or Central or Ferris or any of those colleges, those are nonprofits. There's a lot of them are set up by the state of Michigan to offer education to the people of the state of Michigan. And in the case of Michigan State University, it's a land-grant university, which is a pioneer concept in this country that if the government gives land to a university to be founded, to teach the poor and the working people of the state of Michigan, that our society can become better. Because we used to invest in higher education. We used to invest in K through 12 education for that matter. But talking about college education, our state, our country used to invest in it. And so the reason why you pay more for your college education is because they have decided to not invest in you any longer. It's not due to some budget deficit. It's not due to the fact that times are tough now. It's not due to the fact that budgets are tighter. It's because they made the active decision to rob you of your education or rob your pocketbooks. Right? You have two options. You either stay poor and go without a college education, or you get a college education and you remain poor. And after you graduate, you have to pay back those bills, right? And so hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars a month is spent on college debt, servicing that debt. And that's money that you're not spending on a new home, a new car, a new furnace, on anything that you can have fun with, because God knows that comes with a little bit of money too. And I think that that's inexcusable for our government to say, we just can't afford you. I don't believe that that's a future that I want to live in. I don't believe that's a future in Michigan that we deserve. So my hope is that we can get to a system here in Michigan very shortly where college is universally free. That no matter what your income level, you can attend a university in the state of Michigan free of charge. You can attend a college in the state of Michigan free of charge. You can attend a community college or a trade school free of charge. Because if you want to better your life and better the life of those around you, you shouldn't have to pay for it. And along the same vein, we need to start funding our K through 12 system again. And also change the way that it's funded. Who knows, who went to an inner city school in this room? Got a fair number. Okay. So the reason why those suburban schools are so much better than your inner city school was because those suburbs could afford infrastructure improvements in their schools. Because the state of Michigan doesn't fund that. It's up to the local communities themselves to fund infrastructure improvements. So if they want to build that brand new high school, the local community has to pay for that through taxes. And in a lot of inner cities across our state, they just can't afford that. And if I look to the school that I went to Lansing schools, right? For most of my education, I went to Lansing schools. And Lansing schools were falling apart. In the hallways and up the stairwells, there were grooves in the floor, because they were so old and they hadn't been fixed at all, that just the students walking had created grooves in the hallways and on the stairwells. And the temperature in most of the building was like 90, 95, 100 on the average summer day, or the average warm fall day or warm spring day in Michigan, because they couldn't afford air conditioning. They couldn't afford anything. And when I was in Lansing schools, if you were in honors, it was because you gave a monochrome of a crap, right? So you were placed in honors classes if you showed up to class, if you did your homework, and you weren't disruptive. You were an honor student then. Not if you did well in the class. So I was in honors, by the way, when I was in Lansing schools. I was in honors math. I suck at math. I'm terrible at math. Math and I don't get along at all. We're not on speaking terms. And I should not have been in honors math. And when I transferred to Holt High School, which is a suburban school, because I was lucky enough to literally win the lottery. There was a lottery to get out of the Lansing schools because there were so many children that were trying to transfer to another school district that those schools had to create a lottery system to decide who had the opportunity to attend their school. So I literally won the lotto, and I went to Holt High School. And in Holt, they saw all these honors classes, especially in math, and they were like, oh, we'll put you in honors. And it seems like you did well in these honors math classes, so we're going to put you in advanced chemistry. That didn't work out well. I'm not great at chemistry, and that's something I learned. But the difference between the two levels of education was profound. And we're talking a difference of 10 miles. But it was light years difference in terms of educational opportunities for the students in those schools. Because at Holt High School, I had opportunities for every AP class in the world. So I took AP World History, AP US History, AP Comparative Political Science, AP Macroeconomics, AP Microeconomics. I took all the AP classes I could ever want. And by the way, there isn't a single AP class offered in Lansing schools because there isn't money. Right? When I was in Lansing, your elective classes were where they could put you. So I remember having an elective. I don't even remember the first elective I selected, but it was canceled because they couldn't afford the teacher anymore. And then they stuck me into advanced web design, but I'd never taken a web design class in my life. But they stuck me in advanced web design, and they said, and the teacher, I'll never forget, sat us in front of a computer, and I played on E-Bombs World. It's old. I don't know. I'm probably too old for you guys, but it's an older website. There's no equivalent to it now. It's just goofing off on the internet. And so I spent my class time goofing off on the internet, and I learned nothing about web design because the professor couldn't teach us because there was 40, 50 kids in a classroom designed for 20. And so all he could really do was stick us in front of a computer and have us have that. Well, then they canceled that class, and they stuck me into music appreciation, which was simple enough and cramped enough that they could fit us all in. And so that was my choices at Lansing schools. And compare that to my choices at Holt High School. And which high school do you think better prepares you to go to college? Better prepares you to go to a trade education even? It's Holt High School. And I think it's inexcusable that your zip code can determine your future in the state of Michigan, because it does. And I think if we ever want a better future for us here in Michigan, we have to fight, because they won't do it for us. Right? We've seen Democrats in control where nothing's happened. We've seen Republicans in control when it got worse. And so finally, I said, enough is enough. I'm just going to change it. I'm just going to fight for these issues that I care about because I'm a part of the community too, because these are my issues. I need Medicare for all because I'm still on Medicare or Medicaid. Because after I graduated with my master's degree, I pretty much was campaigning at that point. And so it's hard enough to get a job out there now. But if you have a campaign website, multiple news sources talking about you, a campaign Twitter account, and a campaign Facebook, it's really hard for them not to know that you're campaigning, even if you decide not to state it overtly in the application. And so not too many people want to invest in a candidate that might not be around in 6 months. So it's been hard for me to find a job. So that's why I'm still on government health care, because I just can't afford anything else. And I don't think that anyone should have to live without health care or go without health care or worry about health care in the state of Michigan. So